Thank you for being here with me today. Maybe you're listening while the house is still quiet before the day really begins. Maybe you're folding laundry, washing dishes, or driving a familiar road you've driven 1,000 times. Or maybe you're sitting right beside the person you've shared so many years with, both of you in that comfortable silence that only long love can create. Wherever you are, I'm grateful you chose to spend these minutes with me. This is Marçal's quiet wisdom for life, love, and the years ahead. And I want to say something gently, right from the beginning. If retirement has been harder on your marriage than you expected, you're not alone. A lot of couples think retirement will feel like a reward, like a soft landing after decades of work, bills, schedules, child rearing, and the daily grind. They imagine more rest, more freedom, more time together. And then it happens. The alarm clock disappears, but so does structure. The daily separation disappears, but so do boundaries. The busyness fades. And suddenly, all the things you avoided talking about have plenty of room to speak. Some couples find a new sweetness in retirement. Others feel a surprising kind of tension, like they're learning how to live together all over again. Retirement is one of the biggest transitions a marriage can face. And what's tricky is that it doesn't look like a crisis from the outside. There may not be a single event you can point to. No obvious betrayal, no dramatic blow-up. It can begin quietly, like a slow shift in the atmosphere of the home. One person retires first, and the other keeps working. Or both retire together, and suddenly the days stretch long. The rhythm of the household changes. Roles change. Identity changes. A man who once felt needed at work may suddenly feel unnecessary at home. A woman who kept the house running alone for years may suddenly feel like she has a co-worker in her kitchen. A couple who stayed connected by planning around busy schedules suddenly has too much unstructured time and not enough shared purpose. And under that, retirement can stir up deeper things. Old resentments that were never resolved different. Ideas about money and security, health concerns that bring fear into the room. The emptiness after children leave home, and the quiet question many people won't say out loud, is this it? But here's the hopeful truth. Most retirement-related marriage strain isn't because love disappeared. It's because the system changed and the couple didn't know how to rebuild their daily life around the new reality. So today, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for small, steady ways to return to partnership. Because love after 50 isn't usually about fireworks. It's about warmth. It's about choosing kindness. It's about learning how to share a life again in a new season. Now, let me tell you 4 stories. And as you listen, notice which one feels closest to your own life. Not because you're doomed to repeat it, but because once you can name what's happening, you can change what happens next. Tonight, I want to share for realistic stories of marriages that almost ended after retirement. Not to scare you, not to dramatize anything, but to help you see what's normal, what's fixable, and what can become surprisingly beautiful when 2 people decide to stay on the same side of the table. And as you listen, I want you to hold one simple thought close. It's not too late to find each other again. Story 1. The kitchen that became a battlefield began with something small. Linda noticed it the first week after Mark retired, standing barefoot in the kitchen. Morning. Lights coming through the window, coffee cooling in her mug. Mark had made a sandwich, not a normal sandwich. The kind of sandwich that somehow uses every condiment, every cutting board, and leaves crumbs in places Linda couldn't explain. She didn't say anything at first, but then it happened again the next day, and the next, and gradually, Linda realized This wasn't about sandwiches. For 35 years, Linda ran the home like a quiet expert. She managed groceries, appointments, family schedules, birthdays, and the invisible work that keeps a household from falling apart. Mark worked long hours, and Linda adapted. She built routines around his absence. Now Mark was home all day, and he wasn't trying to make her life easier. Not intentionally. He just existed in every room. He offered opinions about how the dishwasher should be loaded. He reorganized the pantry to help. He asked questions while Linda was trying to read. He followed her from room to room like a well-meaning shadow. One afternoon, Linda found herself snapping over something ridiculous: paper towels. Mark had bought a brand she didn't like. Linda heard her own voice, sharp, surprised by itself, saying, "Why can't you just let me handle it?" Mark stared at her like he'd been slapped. He didn't yell back. He just got quiet. Too quiet. Later that evening, he sat in the living room with the TV on low, not really watching. Linda stood in the doorway and felt the weight of it, the sense that they were starting to become enemies in their own home. That week, Mark said something that scared her. He said, "I don't think you even like me anymore." Linda wanted to say, "Of course I do." But the truth was, she didn't know how to like him in this new arrangement. She felt invaded. He felt rejected. The turning point came in a place neither of them expected: at the kitchen table. With a notepad, Linda said, "We need a schedule." Mark looked offended. "A schedule? I'm retired." Linda said, gently but firmly, "Yes. And so is our old life." They made 3 simple agreements. Mark would take ownership of 2 household tasks, completely his responsibility. From start to finish, Linda would stop correcting how he did them as long as the task got done. Every day, they would each have 1 hour of quiet time where the other person didn't hover, ask, comment, or follow. It sounded almost childish, but it changed everything. Mark gained dignity again. He wasn't helping. He was contributing. Linda gained space. She wasn't trapped in constant togetherness, and something softened between them. Takeaway: retirement doesn't require more togetherness, it requires better boundaries and shared roles. Story 2. The retirement account and the unspoken fear. When Denise and Robert retired, they did what responsible adults do. They made spreadsheets. They met with an advisor. They paid off the house. They talked about living simply, and still, Denise couldn't sleep. She would wake up around 3 a.m., stare at the ceiling, and do math in her head. Groceries, insurance, medical bills, inflation, the future. Robert, on the other hand, seemed peaceful, almost too peaceful. He'd say, "We're fine," and return to his coffee, his garden, his newspaper, like nothing could touch them. Denise started to resent him for that calm. Not because she wanted him anxious, but because his calm made her feel alone. One morning, she brought up their spending in a tight voice. "Do we really need to eat out twice this week?" Robert sighed. "We're retired, Denise. We're allowed to enjoy life." She snapped, "Enjoy it until we run out of money." He pushed his chair back. "You're always worried." "Always." Denise felt the room go cold, because underneath money talk was something deeper. Denise was afraid, and Robert didn't want to admit he was afraid to. Their near breaking point came at a pharmacy. Robert stood at the counter while the pharmacist explained a medication that wasn't fully covered. The cost wasn't catastrophic, but it was enough to make the future feel real. In the car, Denise didn't say, "I told you so." She didn't lecture. She just sat quietly, holding the receipt in her lap like it weighed 100 pounds. Robert drove with his jaw tight. "Finally," he said, almost in a whisper, I hate feeling like I can't protect us anymore." That sentence changed everything. Denise turned and looked at him. "I don't need you to protect us alone," she said. "I need you to face it with me." That night, they did something different. They didn't open spreadsheets. They didn't start with numbers. They started with fear. Denise said, "I'm afraid of being a burden." Robert said, "I'm afraid of failing you." Then they built a plan that was simple enough to live. One weekly money check-in, 30 minutes. Same day, each week a fun budget that was agreed on, so joy didn't feel like danger a rule. No money talks when either person is tired, hungry, or already upset there. Finances didn't magically become perfect, but the marriage became calmer because the fear stopped living in secret. Takeaway: money doesn't break most marriages' loneliness, inside fear does. Story 3. When the kids left, so did the conversation. After the last child moved out, the house got quiet. Not peaceful quiet, just empty. Sandra used to complain about the mess, the noise, the constant interruptions. But now, walking past those clean, unused bedrooms, she felt a strange ache leak. She was hearing an echo of a life that had already ended. Tom, her husband, handled it differently. He became busy. Not with work, he was retired too, but with projects, tools, repairs that didn't need repairing. He stayed in the garage the way some people stay in denial. They weren't fighting. They just stopped talking. Sandra would speak, and Tom would respond with short answers. She'd ask about his day, and he'd shrug. She'd try to bring up feelings, and he'd say, "What's there to talk about?" One night, Sandra sat at the kitchen table with a bowl of soup that had gone cold. Watching Tom scroll through his phone, she said, "Do you ever miss us?" Tom looked up, confused. "What do you mean?" Sandra said. "Us? Not the kids. Not the bills. Not the schedule. Us." Tom stared at her for a moment, and then his eyes lowered again to the phone. That was the moment, Sandra thought. I might not be able to do this. Not because she needed constant romance, but because she didn't want to become roommates with a shared history. The turning point came on an ordinary Saturday. Sandra found an old photo album while cleaning a closet, the kind with thick pages and plastic covers. She sat on the floor and opened it, expecting nostalgia. Instead, she felt grief. There they were, young and smiling, holding babies, standing in front of a first home, laughing at a barbecue. Their life wasn't just responsibility, it had been joy. Tom walked by and paused. He didn't say anything at first. He just sat down next to her on the floor. Slowly, Sandra turned a page. Tom pointed at a picture and said, "I forgot that shirt." Sandra laughed through tears, and then Tom said something simple. "I miss that time," Sandra whispered. Due to that night, they made a small decision. One weekly date at home. No big production. Just dinner at the table with phones in another room. And one question they'd answer honestly. Not "How was your day?" A better question. Like, "What's been heavy on you lately? What do you need more of from me? What do you miss? What are you hopeful about now?" The first few were awkward. They stumbled. They laughed. They got quiet. Then they tried again. And slowly, the conversation returned not as a performance, but as a habit. Takeaway after the kids leave. You don't need a new life. You need new ways to meet each other again. Story 4. The diagnosis that changed. The marriage. Eleanor noticed the tremor before her husband did. It was smaller, slight shake when James held his coffee cup. A moment of stiffness when he stood up from the couch. A change in his handwriting on the grocery list. James shrugged it off for months. "I'm just getting older," he said. But then came the doctor's office. The bright lights, the paper-covered exam table, the calm voice that delivered a word that can rearrange a marriage in one sentence. Parkinson's. On the drive home, James stared out the window. Eleanor watched his hand resting on his thigh, the tremor more obvious now that they had a name for it. At home, they did what many couples do in fear. They separated, not physically. Emotionally, Eleanor went into research mode. Articles, support groups, diet changes, exercise routines. James went into silence mode. He stayed in his chair longer. He spoke less. He seemed smaller. They stopped touching as much. Eleanor told herself she was being strong. James told himself he was protecting her. And in that quiet separation, love started to feel like a job: caregiving, managing, scheduling rather than companionship. The near-breaking moment came one evening when Eleanor tried to talk about the future. "What if you can't drive?" she asked. James snapped, "Stop." "Planning my decline," Eleanor snapped back. "Stop pretending nothing is happening." Then they both went quiet, like they had thrown something fragile on the floor and didn't know how to pick it up. Their turning point came not during a deep conversation, but during a song. James, alone in the living room, put on an old record. Music from early in their marriage, the kind that holds memories like photographs. Eleanor walked in and saw him sitting with his eyes closed, listening. Not fixing anything, not fighting anything, just listening. Without thinking, she sat beside. Heyman took his hand. They didn't talk about Parkinson's. They didn't solve anything. They just sat together while the song played. And in that moment, Eleanor realized something. They had been managing the disease, but neglecting the marriage. So they made two promises. Every day, they would do one thing that belonged to their relationship. Not the diagnosis. Once a week, they would talk honestly about fears, but also about hopes. They started taking slow walks not for fitness, but for connection. They practiced patience without pity. They learned that help doesn't have to turn one person into a patient and the other into a nurse. It can remain partnership. They still had hard days, but they stopped facing those days alone. Takeaway. A diagnosis can change your life, but it doesn't have to steal your togetherness. If you heard yourself in any of those couples, I want you to breathe a little easier, because what you're hearing is not failure. It's transition, and transitions require new skills, especially after retirement. Here are a few lessons that quietly repeat across almost every marriage that survives this season well. First, structure is not the enemy of freedom. A lot of couples think retirement means no rules, but most people don't thrive in total looseness. Homes need rhythm. Marriages need agreements. Not rigid control, just gentle structure that prevents two people from stepping on each other all day. A weekly check-in, quiet time, shared tasks. A predictable routine. These aren't signs of a weak marriage. They're signs of a wise one. Second, fear does more damage when it stays hidden. Denise and Robert weren't fighting about money. They were fighting about what money represented: safety, dignity, and the fear of becoming helpless. The healthiest couples don't pretend they aren't afraid. They practice saying it out loud in a way that invites closeness, not conflict. Not, "You never listen," but "I feel alone in this." Third, empty nest isn't just grief for children, it's a reset of identity. When the kids leave, many couples realize they've been teammates in parenting, but strangers in intimacy. That's not shameful. It's common. The solution isn't to force romance. It's to rebuild friendship through small, consistent moments. Dinner with phones. Away. A short walk. A shared project. A question asked gently. Fourth, health changes can turn partners into roles if you're not careful. A diagnosis, whether it's Parkinson's, heart issues, chronic pain, or something else, can quietly transform a marriage into caregiver and patient. But couples who stay emotionally connected keep doing relationship things, even in small ways. Music, touch, morsh, decisions, and respect. Doctors will tell you movement matters. Therapists will tell you communication matters. Financial planners will tell you planning matters. But long marriages will tell you something simpler. Small moments of kindness, repeated, can outlast big moments of crisis. And if you want one practical place to start here. Choose one daily habit that lowers tension. 10 minutes of quiet coffee, together, one shared task done as a team, a short walk after dinner, one honest question asked without interrupting, gentle touch without needing a reason, not to fix everything, just to tend what matters. There's something sacred about this season of life, not because it's easy, but because it strips away distractions. When you're younger, time feels endless. You can postpone conversations. You can assume you'll get to it later. You can waste days being stubborn. After 50, especially after retirement, you begin to feel time differently. Not as panic, not as despair, more like awareness. You realize that love isn't just a feeling you stumbled into decades ago. It's a practice, a daily decision, a way of showing up. You also begin to see your spouse with a deeper kind of knowing. You remember them in every version. Younger, ambitious, stressed, tear-eyed, raising children, building a life, carrying grief, celebrating joy, sieging in ways neither of you expected, and you realize this person has been your witness, not just for big events, but for the invisible parts, the seasons no one else saw, the private struggles, the ordinary days that make a life. In retirement, you're given something rare, time, but time doesn't automatically create closeness. Sometimes it exposes distance, and that can be painful, but it can also be a gift, because what's exposed can finally be healed. Sometimes the most mature kind of love isn't loud. It doesn't demand. It doesn't perform. It becomes something quieter. It looks like making coffee the way they like it. It looks like listening without fixing. It looks like learning new rhythms when old ones disappear. It looks like saying, "I miss you," even after decades. It looks like taking someone's hand when words feel too heavy. You don't have to become a new couple. You just have to become present again. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Whether you're listening alone or sitting beside the person you've built a life with, I hope these stories gave you something steady, something you can carry into your next conversation, your next morning, your next ordinary moment together. Here at Marçal's Quiet Wisdom, we'll keep sharing calm, story-driven encouragement for couples over 50, especially those navigating retirement, changing health, empty nest seasons, and the simple financial decisions that shape daily peace. If today's episode helped you, I'd love to invite you to subscribe. And if you would, like this video so it can reach another couple who may need a gentle word right now. And consider sharing it with someone you care about, because sometimes one quiet story becomes the beginning of healing. And before we close, I want to leave you with a question, one that doesn't require a perfect answer, only an honest one. What is one small change you could make this week, not to fix your marriage, but to lower the tension in your home and help love feel easier to live in again? Until next time, take care of your heart, take care of your health, and keep choosing each other one ordinary day at a time. This is Marçal's Quiet Wisdom, wisdom for life, love, and the years ahead. And if you've been feeling distant, if the home has felt tense, if retirement has been harder than you expected, let that be information, not a verdict. Because the years ahead can still hold tenderness, they can still hold laughter, they can still hold a kind of companionship that younger love can't even imagine.